Beardy and the Beast, the second wall.
Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba. This is a placeholder intro song.
Welcome to the second wall, binge-free zone where we look at a series and discuss it in small chunks. This time we are looking at Joss Whedon's sci-fi classic, Firefly. We can be found on most podcast and social media platforms, a full list of which can be found at beardyandthebeast.com. Please watch the episode and then join Drew and I in the mess as we explore the verse.
Jayne is a girl's name.
Let me show you my man bits. Oh.
So I gotta just to come straight out of it, there wasn't much to this episode.
Yeah.
I was hoping. I kind of mentioned this after our last recording of Firefly. I totally thought that because some of the weaker ones were actually some of the stronger ones when looked at critically, that might hold up for this one.
Yeah.
Not so much.
So I agree with you, but I'm also not quite as disappointed with it. And this actually comes from watching it critically. Because I really feel this is what's known as the breather episode.
Okay, yeah, from a
Because
pacing standpoint.
Yeah, because the last few episodes have been pretty intense. So I think this was... I think this serves a couple of purposes. One, it's that bit of a breather episode, so don't need to worry so much. And I know I mentioned this back with our Mrs. Reynolds episode that I get the impression that they wanted Saffron to be more, and that's kind of the that impression is still pushed through in this episode. Like, you know that they intended to have her as reoccurring, and I could honestly see her being part of the crew at some point. And I don't think that was taken away in this episode. I think it just kind of reinforced that aspect for me.
Okay, yeah. You've convinced me.
Yeah.
I got no pushback. I've looked at a breather and then like a recurring spot. I don't see crew status for her, but more frequent interaction than say Badger. For sure.
Yeah. And when I say like a crew spot, I'm talking like season 3. Like not going to be an immediate thing. Like in the same way that they did with Spike. Right. Like he was recurring and then he became part of the Scoobies after a while, right? So I get the feeling that's where they're going, and a lot of that comes from it's like just the way her and Mal play off each other. Like you can tell they're like much in the same way that Inara and Mal can be two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
I get that same feeling with Saffron and Mal, just like this different coin that we're using.
Yeah.
Right. Like they play off, they play well off each other. There is actually a good chemistry there. And they've done, I think they did some interesting stuff with Inara as well. Because I do suggest there was a bit of jealousy. Right? Like there was just that bit of it there that you can tell that Saffron is in Mal's world in a way that Inara can't be. And they're similar enough in ways that I could see her feeling threatened there.
Okay.
And there was kind of a few mirrors throughout the episode with Inara and Saffron that show that a little bit more. The idea of the feminine wiles coming up a few times in particular, I think is a good example of that.
It's It's interesting because, like, if you're comparing Saffron and Inara, the parts that Mal doesn't like
Mhm.
between the two, um, there's many. Sorry, there's. I'm gonna restate that. Between Inara and Saffron, some of the major points of their characters, some not all, um, are the same or very similar between the two characters, and these are aspects that Mal finds distasteful,
Mhm.
like the use of wiles as some type of manipulation tactic.
Yeah. To be fair, we've seen them use their wiles as manipulation tactics,
Yep.
especially some Saffrons. uh, um, I mean, with that being said, another slight difference around that too is, I think, like, you do see Mal. I think he actually does call Saffron a whore, but I don't think he's ever called Inara a whore.
No, because he refers to the profession and not her, right?
Yeah,
Like they established that previously.
yeah. Uh, but I mean, that's also gives room for things to grow.
Hmm.
So, uh, and I do really think that Saffron was sincere about Duran.
Hmm.
Like, I really do think that, you know, she did try. She sold that to me. And even though she tried to play it off as like, haha, look how I manipulated you again. I agree with Mal's like, no, this is the most naked I've ever seen you. Like, you're not.
Well,
Who are you fooling?
the thing that I wonder about that is if it's just because of like how they portray our character, it makes me feel like it's not so much Duran, but what Duran represents what Saffron was trying to achieve. He's a representation of a dream that she had, settling down, playing it straight, and not living that life.
Mm, no, I think that she could only see that because, like, I mean, again, it's not like we get the most interaction with them.
Hmm.
I think the idea of the dream and such is what she tells herself.
Okay.
Uh, and again, there's just a couple of very clear things that are mentioned in there. Like, and Mel calls her out on it directly. It's like, you've been sitting on this for like a decade. I don't believe you. There's a reason you haven't crossed this line.
Hmm.
Right? Which also raises the question is like, what's making her cross that line now?
That does make you like interested in what potential backstory or storyline that she's having.
Mhm.
So, like, is she running from someone? Like, does she need cash to pay somebody back? Someone that she shouldn't have crossed?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely more and more convincing me that in potential future seasons, she might have had more integral parts to the story.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If
And
it,
again, just do it in a couple of lines. Like,
I honestly could see them going to Saffron as some form of um resource to say get information to get River back or something,
yeah.
or for her to use her wiles on like some official that they don't want to risk, Inara with.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I could see that. Um,
Yeah, not that it'll happen. Lol.
I think a better character to reference what I see happening with her is, instead of Spike, would be Mouse from Reboot.
Oh, geez, that's way back.
Yeah.
Like dating yourself now.
Okay,
tell
so
me,
we haven't done that at all.
tell me stories of the Great War, Grandpapa. No,
Yeah,
not
'cause
the
we
first
didn't
one, the second one.
Yeah, because we didn't date ourselves. We talked about crying in a theater at The Little Mermaid.
I never cried, I just refused to leave. Joke's on you, nerd. Um, Mouse from Reboot.
Yeah. She wasn't quite as antagonistic, but yeah. Like, she was in, like, an episode here or there, and then all of a sudden, she's now forced into being part of the main cast in the later seasons.
Give me a second. It's been a long time.
I'll occasionally go and watch season 3 and 4 because they're really good.
Okay, so that was in the web arc.
Yeah. They did do a couple of interesting character things around Saffron as well, and the crew. Because like I wrote down questions because I'm like, this doesn't make sense. This seems out of character. Like Wash and Kaylee being the ones giving the plan to Inara and Mal. That seemed very out of place to me.
The problem that we run into, and like I was also thinking some of this, I gotta step way back. The first time I saw this, I thought Inara coming out and like saving the day was not something that had any pre-planning because I had missed that like one sentence at the end of the episode. So our two options are Inara was bluffing just to piss off Saffron, or there was some truth to it and there was acting involved.
Yeah.
Hence how weird, like, I felt like Kaylee was definitely not acting normal.
Mm-hmm.
And even Jayne.
Yeah.
Like, Jayne's dim, but he's not dumb.
Yeah.
And they either portrayed him incorrectly or poorly, or that's his best acting that he could do.
Yeah. It definitely leads me to not take that line as a throwaway line.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, there's just these little things that felt so off, and then she says that I'm like, it doesn't feel off anymore. Right. And Saffron's not going to know that that's what's happening either. Because she doesn't have that much experience with the crew.
Well, especially with like half the crew laughing and the other half like yelling about why she's on board, and then
getting decked by Zoe.
Yeah, like there was a lot of what's the best way to put it? There was a lot of disparate things occurring all at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And like it muddies the water. It makes things confusing.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to read Zoe. So when things start getting a little too absurd, she stands up and like forces the eye contact, forces that confrontation, puts Saffron into flight mode.
Yeah.
So she's not going to be reading as well. Not that I think she would be able to read Zoe well.
Yeah, I don't think anyone could.
Yeah. So I definitely think the acting was part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I think so. So it's interesting how they did it. And again, just interesting that it took that one line makes everything click.
Mm-hmm. Which is funny because it changes the entire atmosphere of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I think even so, when I watched it originally, I didn't catch that line that it was all an act.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I also misread it because I was still reading the episode as if it was an act. because if it wasn't an act and Inara came in and saved the day like that, it would have all sorts of implications for what she thinks of the crew and what she thinks of Mal, especially after the argument. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that even though I didn't take it that way originally, that this has been clarified in my head.
Yeah, and it makes a lot more sense being the act as well.
Mm-hmm.
One, it feeds off the argument. It's like, well, if I'm here, if I'm not getting a job here, you're cutting me in now,
Yeah.
right? So that plays into it, and it explains why Anara would know enough of the plan to know where it was going to be prepared
Yeah, exactly.
for the double cross, because normally they don't talk about their thievings, and she specifically says that in front of
Yeah, no details.
them, right? So, um, and I mean, she's kind of said that before, but never quite so bluntly. So
It
it makes
might
sense.
have that might have also been a so this entire episode might have just been a kludgy um double heist trope thing.
Mm.
Um which I think to get into that level of complication to do like the double trick in a
Yeah,
heist setting, you'd need a full movie's worth of formatting.
yeah,
Um because they're essentially knowingly heisting from one person, but they're also heisting the second person directly involved.
yeah. Well, I like that it wasn't a second heist; it
Mm,
was an insurance policy,
yeah, yeah.
right? Um, because I think it would have been out of place for it to be a double heist. That doesn't seem how Mal and his crew would operate.
No, but having it as the second heist be the backup plan,
Yeah,
uh, just because it's a fun breather episode, as you said. So
yeah,
I'm like a little bit lost on this one, just because it is simple and the character, like the deepest character moments we get, one we'll talk about in a bit, but is with Yosaf Bridge and the whole conversation about like revealing intimate parts of her character.
mhm.
But if I remember correctly, this is the last we see of her.
If I remember correctly, that is the case.
Maybe there's something in the comics, but
Again,
uh,
I think it's one of those things where they weren't expecting it to be canceled like that.
yeah. Um.
um,
So yeah, but it's weird. It's kind of weird and out of place because it's that kind of leads itself to what you were saying before about her having a more prominent role later, simply because um, it's not like they're giving that kind of backstory to Badger.
yeah,
Um,
or Niska,
yeah,
the other two reoccurrings that we've seen. Right?
they like very specifically had like kind of a deep introspective moment with Yosaf Bridge.
Yeah, yeah, they're not making her out to just be scummy. They're making her a more complex character.
Mhm.
So,
Well, and that's what I
um,
like because one thing that like we've only seen her twice, but she's went from either a representation of a demographic or some type of negative portrayal of a character archetype,
mhm,
which we hate,
mhm,
um, and actually giving her depth, making her a strong character.
yeah, I liked their introduction at the beginning of the episode too with Saffron. Just instantly, both of them go and pull out their guns.
Yeah,
um, I found Monty's reaction interesting. It's like, just like, yeah, whatever. Obviously, you guys have met, and just leaves it there.
I see you've met before. Well, I mean,
uh,
in that line of work, I don't think Monty would find it surprising
yeah,
as much as I wouldn't find it surprising if Mel showed up with Jayne and Monty decked Jayne.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
I think it's more just that little bit of like it's just the littlest bit of world building that's in there. It's like,
mhm.
yeah, no, this is just how it is. I do wonder how long Saffron was with Monty.
Well, I mean, to get a man to shave his beard.
I know, right?
I mean, she is a very attractive woman, though.
Yes.
Um, but it's your beard, right? He was proud of that soup catcher.
Yep.
I'll tell you what. One little character moment that I liked with Saffron, I just wanted to mention, is it was clear that she was quite on guard even before Mal showed up.
Mm,
Because it wasn't her gun.
yeah.
She took someone else's who was walking by.
Yeah.
But she turned and immediately grabbed it, so she knew it was already there.
Yeah.
Meaning that she was perceptive as to where all the weapons were around her. I imagine probably quick exits and how to hijack the ship, all those kind of things. She was already aware. It just helps express her capabilities, I guess you could say, how perceptive and cunning she might be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's again, it's those even little character moments like that leads me to believe, like, I think the next episode that had Saffron in it, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like Mal and them helping her out and
Mm-hmm.
actually helping her out. Because again, they're definitely leading to the you're in some trouble.
Well, they got to do the redemption arc, right?
Yeah.
So if it's part of her being helped out or her somehow helping them out.
Mhm.
But it also makes me wonder if it's going to be like if it would be more akin to Bella from Supernatural. Ends up screwing them over simply because she has her own traumas and things she needs to get over. And it's not so much about them, but saving herself from something bigger and darker.
Yeah.
But that's usually, to be kind of
Well,
meta about it, that kind of storyline is not generally. No, they'll do that. They did that with Wes in Angel,
yeah.
and then he had another redemption arc.
Yeah.
Or no,
Didn't
he had his.
Gunn have something like that too in Angel?
Oh yeah, because he sold everyone out to get his law knowledge back.
Yeah.
But that was less. That was more about him
Yeah.
individually. Not, I don't think the other people knew. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But I mean, Wes stole Angel's son.
Yeah.
And got his throat cut, and then from there later on,
Yeah.
got his redemption arc. So
Yeah.
I could see that kind of pathway.
Yeah. I think, well, I mean, they're already kind of, I mean, obviously, stuff we're going to get into. We're seeing that a bit with Jayne as well.
Hmm.
Like just the last few episodes has been that, nope, there's the falling and back. And I think it's just going to make the characters more interesting overall. I'm not saying that they're ever going to have Saffron in with open arms, but I also think that if she was making an effort, they wouldn't be turning their back on her either.
Speaking of Jayne,
Yes.
was it that Jayne's been afraid since Ariel?
Yeah.
And I think that was just because of the observation when Jayne was literally turning them in while they laid there.
Mm-hmm.
Not the most clever thing to do. And they kind of like hinted at River's perception of that with the what was it?
The copper.
Yeah, kiss for a copper.
Yeah.
Or copper for a kiss. I like.
Oh.
We'll talk about Jayne directly, but the one thing that I wanted to bring up before he transitioned that I really like is Simon's faith in his sister's observational abilities, or her intuition in this case. Because he didn't seem to question it.
Yeah.
Like he knew exactly what River was saying, and then to the best of his abilities went for the most amicable resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that kind of little character moment, she just said 2 lines. They were vague. They were abstract. They could have meant a bunch of things. And his sister is a little bit moon-brained.
Just a little.
But I guess for the respect of her cognitively still, and how much he understands her, the fact that he acted upon it is respectable. It was a little moment I liked.
Well, I mean, that's a big thing. Like, they've constantly shown that he has faith in his sister.
Yep.
He worries about her, but he's never once shunned off anything she said throughout the series. So, again, just that logical progression. It makes sense that he's going to do that. I really like how Simon put Jayne in his place at the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, do you really understand what messing with us is going to be like? Right, like the power that Simon could have, and that he.
I don't think it was about power. So the way I read this, and this is why it hit home for Jayne, in my opinion. Simon feels like he's part of Mal's crew now.
Yeah.
They've heisted together. They've fought together. They've rescued together.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like the Dom family thing. There's nothing worse than being rejected by your family or being shunned by your family. So the way that I read that situation, it was civilized for sure.
Yeah.
Which is what you would expect from Simon. But I read it more of we're supposed to be family, and I'm supposed to be treating you like this.
Yeah.
And I will continue to do so, and we need to put this aside.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's going to be problems.
Yes, I agree. I think where I'm trying to go with this more is it's a tempered show of force still.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's more what I'm meaning. It's not having a power over. It's just that, again, like there's like the scariest thing is someone who has the power and is tempered enough not to use it.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. And that's what Simon did there, intentionally or not. I don't think he was trying to do a show of force. I do think it was more of a, no, we're going to move on from this. Right. Mistakes are made. We understand this. But it has that added effect of showing that.
I see what you mean.
So, yeah.
I like, whether I'm right or not, it did appeal to the thing that Jayne has been struggling with, and that's his place within the crew, his place within the family, and that rejection that he's still feeling these scars of from that confrontation about with Mal. That it's not about money, it's about who you're with.
Yeah. And I think some of that goes back even further. Like, I honestly get the impression that loyalty is new to Jayne.
Yes.
Like we saw that in Out of Gas. Right? When they're introducing him as a character. Like, this is foreign to him. It's
well, like and they joked about it before. The whole like what are you gonna do when the money is good enough? Well, that'll be the day. Like I think you hit it on the head there. It's definitely a new concept in this line of work for Jayne.
Yeah.
And he's not quite quick enough to understand the subtext of the joking, and probably thought it was more like on the face of it, than what it really was, which was, joking around and gentle ribbing.
Yeah. Well, again, like I honestly don't think he has the experience with it.
Exactly.
Like it's pure ignorance in that regards. Um, I think, I think, I guess we're going to pivot into Jayne here a bit more now, unless you had more to go with from Simon.
No, I like that episode, or not episode, situation.
Yeah.
How he stuck up for himself in a civilized manner, but was still a show of strength. There we go. Not
Yeah.
yeah,
Strength.
strength. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the word.
That's better.
Which is um not only something that Jayne respects,
Yeah.
and he's already been developing respect for Simon, but in addition, I believe they're also to be that extra little slap in the face because of his rejection from the crew.
Yeah.
Whether or not Simon and them knew about it doesn't really matter. It
Yeah.
was from the patriarch of the family, I guess you could say. So,
Yeah.
um,
This does go to show that again, Mal has not said anything.
mhm.
Um, and I don't, and I wonder if Simon will say anything.
I don't think he will.
Yeah, I honestly can't remember, but yeah, I probably wouldn't. So they did some interesting things with Jayne throughout this. Even with the, like when he was there, telling Simon and River that no, they gotta hide, can't have Saffron knowing you're here because she will sell you out.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he a, River called it scared, and I think that's part of it. But I also think she missed the remorse that I think was actually there, which kind of makes sense because I mean it's not like we see that much with Jayne,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're gonna go scared or something more because well, Jayne's kind of basal instinct that way.
Yeah.
How he's done, but it 100% read to me as remorse um, with his caginess. Um, so he knows he done messed up,
Oh, Hundo P.
and still shows that. And I mean, yes, he's crude, but again, I don't think he understands the jokes that they're trying to make. Like again, I think the Jane's a girl's name. I think that was River trying to joke.
Oh, yeah, and
And
well, I mean, he was also preoccupied because
yeah,
he's been his jokes have been a little bit antagonistic towards Simon, but at least he ribs him in um ways in his own ways.
yeah,
Um, the fact that he didn't catch it from River either could be a signal that he doesn't understand her, which is a high probability, but also he's very distracted in his head and being, cagey and, that combination of scared and remorseful when he's around them because he doesn't want them to find out about this betrayal.
yeah. Um, yeah,
Which,
100% there.
but he doesn't seem to be. I mean, we haven't seen much interaction with him and the other crew members, but aside from the apples, I haven't seen much of him acting that way around them.
Yeah.
So it really makes you wonder what that impact was when he saw Simon saving that man
Mhm.
in the hospital. Because, I mean, we talked about it last episode, but I felt like that completely turned around the situation for them.
Mhm.
It's the whole, like, we got to leave sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. No, he's definitely concerned about them. And it's I mean, because this is in a way one of Jane's flaws is like as you said, that simpleness
Mm-hmm.
that he kind of has. It's like as and it's a bit odd because he's blunt a lot of the times, but he can't be blunt about himself
Mm.
and his motivations. because I could honestly see Simon having respect for him if he could actually admit what we kind of speculated throughout Ariel was he it wasn't the money that he was turning him in for. It was because he was afraid for the rest of the crew.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously, Jayne's not ready to make that step.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see that actually doing something to help the relationship, because that would actually give Simon and Jayne a point of commonality. They will do anything to protect their family.
And that'd be such a great like bonding moment for them.
Mm-hmm.
What I would like to see is a situation where it ends up being like, what's the TV show episode trope they haven't done yet? Trapped somewhere. Simon and him trapped somewhere.
Mm.
And like a thing like Jayne with a broken leg had to drag unconscious Simon through like a coal mine situation, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'd like to see. Actually have like, because if they do put it past them, and I think Simon can, I don't think Jayne can, but it's not that he's blaming Simon, it's that he's still affected. Like he doesn't have the perception of himself, like you said.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that ability for pure introspection. That's the kind of that's the kind of situation I'd like to see them involved with, just to, because I think it'd be hilarious in later seasons, especially how they started off, for them to become just like really good buddies.
Mm-hmm.
Or like Jayne to start treating River like a little sister.
Yeah.
Like something you'd expect, like how he treats Kaylee.
Yeah. And like it's definitely something that I could see happening. Like I can see that progression. But yeah, I think the big thing is Jayne needs to have that character moment where he learns to forgive himself before anything. Because almost all of Jayne's major character flaws are coming from that. Again, the not understanding loyalty, not understanding how to come to grips with what happened. I mean, again, I think both times said it's like if he literally just says that he thought he was doing the best thing for the crew, it would have changed some of the reactions that were there. And he just doesn't know how, doesn't understand it. Like it's a little hard to phrase it exactly what I'm thinking, but I think you know where I'm getting with it.
Yeah. I can't wait until we reach that episode where they're able to express and go into detail who Jayne is, much like they did Saffron in this episode.
I know, right?
Sarcasm. I mean, I'd like to see that, but I know it doesn't exist here.
Yeah. Which, again, it's just one of the big things we've said with the series overall. It's like they're setting up so much.
Well, I said it the longest time, like people give this show far too much credit. It's good.
Yeah.
It's not the bee's knees. It's not the best thing I've ever seen, but what it could be.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly think this could have been the greatest 4-season run of a sci-fi TV show ever.
Yeah.
Like even beating out some of my favorites. So it's like, what it could be is excellent. The series itself is all right.
Yeah.
But the foundation that they're setting up for the story is just, the foundation is chef's kiss.
Yeah. Yeah, foundation characterization, except for Wash.
No, but he's got a story now. A story. He came back with a story.
Oh,
I just more and more like all the serious stuff aside, because I think we talked about it pretty much. Like we've been saying this each episode, but like the respect we're getting for Simon, there's no way I would let him be my favorite character. Still a Jayne stan, but like his the conversation that he had with Jayne was strong, complex, and I would even say like intellectually cunning, or even a little bit of intellectual manipulation there. It's the kind of interaction that you wouldn't at the beginning of the series credit him with having a complex enough or strength of enough of a character, to be able to act in such a way.
Yeah,
it's interesting to see him grow and become his own little real boy.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, like, I think there's a reason why we were right when we, have Jayne as up there with our favorite characters. And even as we're digging into it more, it's like, no, there's a lot there.
Well, there's more to Simon than there is of Inara.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, most of Inara's character building is all in relation to Mal.
Yeah.
Like they haven't really gotten a Kaylee, nor Zoe.
Yeah. Kaylee they do little bits with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clear. It's clear they're not the focus at this point. That is one thing they did with Kaylee that I forgot to mention. It's like the little bit of the plan that she was giving was exactly what you were talking about. You were expecting her to do in more stories.
Yeah.
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 So as soon as they had time to plan, that's exactly where she went. So I did appreciate that.
You know what? I just respect her so much as a character, as a strong woman, that I think even with limited time, she could come up with a great plan just like that.
It's. I mean, it kind of makes. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, it's weird. Like, Wash has been coming down, but Kaylee hasn't, and maybe it's just because like I'm endeared to her because of the way she acts. It's one of those things. Like, I've always wanted a kid sister, so like having that character archetype, maybe that's why, even though she doesn't have much complexity to her, she's not dropping like a rock like Wash is.
Yeah, I think that's, and I think similar things with Inara as well. We might not get the most with them, and again, it's generally in relationship to something else.
Mm-hmm.
But Inara, I'm not expecting to see much change from her. In the series, she comes across right off the bat as the most stable of them there.
Yeah.
Her characterization is the Rock. So
yeah, she's stable but lost.
Yes. But we understand where she is. She knows who she is. We're not expecting to see growth there. The only place for growth with Inara is her relationship with Mal.
Yeah.
Right. And the crew in general, right? And, with Kaylee, again, we don't have much, but the little bits that we have are always so full of charm, and again, show the complexity of her character.
Mm.
I need to have the pretty ruffled dress and go talk shop with the guys. Right? Or, oh, I wanted to go to the mall. Ooh, stabilizers.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we get these little types of character moments, and again, War Stories would do the same thing. It's like willing to fight and then realizing she isn't actually capable of fighting. Like,
yeah, compared to what they've done with Wash, which is he's really what did I claim that he was the other episode? He's Zoe's beard.
yes,
He's like only exists to make Zoe slightly more complex.
yeah, and that's all that's there. We get he's the Joker. He's a good pilot. Okay, you can hold the ship steady. Good work. Right. I mean, I definitely understand the skill of like throwing a dart at a target, 600 miles away and hitting a bullseye. I get that.
Well, he's also an electrical engineer. Don't forget about that.
Yes.
Called it. I'm so smart.
Yeah.
One might say super smart.
Hashtag.
Um,
and yeah, I think that's really the problem with Wash. Like, there's mystery around Book, right? We're just not getting in even War Stories, which is supposed to be his kind of character-ish type episode. It just didn't do anything interesting with it. Not with him in it, more specifically, right? And I think that's why we're watching our respective Wash drop like a rock, but we're not seeing that with any of the other characters.
But funny man make joke.
Yeah, he does.
Funny man make joke. So the real question then, would you like handsome cop or would you like funny man make joke?
Oh. Funny man make joke.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, handsome cop is handsome.
Yes.
But funny man make joke.
Funny man make joke. Look, you can make up for a lot with a good sense of humor. Again, a lot of that's because, like, even though there's not much of a character there, he has a use. Right? Just not as developed as he could be or should be in any way, shape, or form. I can't even think of another character offhand that jumps out to me as so underdeveloped as him, like in the other Whedon shows.
Well, the problem they have with him is why is he there?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll probably talk about this in like a wrap up or when we do Serenity, but like him as a character, what is his motivations?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if he even simply suggested to Zoe in an episode of like one day we can get out of this mess, like, the dreamer archetype, and be like, one day we'll get out of this mess and we'll retire and have a little farmstead or something.
Yeah.
Something about the future, something they're trying to gain, because it's obviously he's not running from something.
Yeah. Oh, that just throws in so much more. Oh God, that you've hurt my view on Wash even more with that. Because you're right. Everyone else, the crew, there's a clear reason for them being there. Right? Zoe, pure loyalty. Simon River, obviously,
And
Jayne, that looking for actual family and pays well. And Book, again, pretty sure he's running from something, just not, or there's something more around him. I can't nail his motivations, but there's clearly reasons for him being on the ship. Kaylee needed to get out of the little backwater town.
Well, and she has a sense of adventure.
Yeah, the sense of adventure. Why is Wash on this ship?
Well, especially like a bunch of crews were trying to get him, like list of references as long as my leg. Like it didn't seem like there was a love at first sight thing with Zoe.
No, not at all.
And like we fully know that Wash is with Zoe.
Yeah.
But we're just saying, like, him as a personality or a character there's no draw for him to have not only joined the crew, but stayed long enough to start some type of relationship with Zoe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so weird because again, like I can't think of another character that that's the case for. I mean, like even early Cordelia and oh, what was her name? Uh Harmony from Buffy.
I mean, like,
Like,
to give Cordelia, like, some credit, like, she would casually mention things that were, like, terrible for her family in the grand scheme of things.
yeah.
And um to be so oblivious as to, like, how their impacts are going to be. It's like, oh yeah, they're investigating my dad for tax evasion.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, you get stuff like that, which I honestly think was just her kind of coping. And, they, like, even early on, they show her as being, the ditzy cheerleader stereotype. And again, that tax evasion. And then immediately goes like, oh, yeah, and she's as smart as Willow. There's complexity there.
Well, I mean, like, and I've met those girls in high school. Like, you talk to them, and they just seem so oblivious and
Yeah.
um so disconnected from reality. But then they just, like, they sit down. It's like, oh yeah, I got like 3.8 or a 4.0.
Yeah.
They're just like, how? Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like I don't get what they were trying to do with them. And it bothers me way more than I figured it would. I keep hoping that there's something there that changes this, and I don't think there is. Um, again, just seems so out of place. I don't understand it. Like, did they have something else, or did they just decide they needed to split a character?
mm.
Like,
Well, I mean, knowing the way that in these Whedon shows that they kind of might come back like season 3 and really kind of expand upon someone.
mhm.
I think I've said multiple times, I think it's less planned out than you do.
Mm.
But the way that I see it is he was just written as a character aspect of Zoe.
Yeah.
Just to tag along for her, because they wanted her to be more complex.
Yeah.
And I mean, the relationship is good. Like, that's entertaining and that's complex, but Wash himself is.
Yeah.
Anyways.
That's enough soapboxing about Wash.
Yeah, I got nothing else.
Yeah. I can't think of anything else either.
Awesome. Fiend.
All right. Bean. Okay. Thanks again for huddling around the second wall with us here tonight. Join us next time as we continue our discussion of Firefly. Please join the conversation in the comments, on social media, or at our Discord, where we would love to get your thoughts. And of course, if you like what we do, please share us with your friends.